Welcome to RAD Academy. So in today's section, we are going to talk about how to tackle a single and incomplete records question. So when you have a question on single entry, there are some few things that you need to know before you start the question. So first of all, let's talk about single entry. Single entry. So when we talk about single entry is a situation where records are not kept in accordance with the double entry principle. That is all. So for the double entry principle says that for every transaction, there are two entries. That is the credit entry and the debit entry. So the single entry does not conform with the double entry principle. That is, when a transaction occurs, only one entry is made. And with that, it makes it very difficult for you to ascertain your net profit. That is the single entry. So for you to ascertain your net profit for a particular period, there is a format that you need to follow. And that is what we are going to talk about now. So I'm just going to give you the format for the single entry. So when you have a single entry question where you are asked to determine the net profit of the business, this is how you go about it. So you write your statement of profit or loss for the year ended. Then you add the date to it. So this will be your heading for that question. So I want to explain something small before I proceed with the format. So for instance, if you start a business with 1,000 Ghana cedis, you start the business with 1,000 Ghana cedis. That is January. In January, you started the business with 1,000 Ghana cedis. And at the end of the period or the year, that is December, you have 1,500 cedis. During your transactions in your business, you made a single entry. Therefore, it's going to be very difficult for you to determine your profits for the year. But then all what you know is you started a business with 1,000 Ghana cedis, and at the end of the year, you have 1,500 cedis. So if you want to determine your profit, then it will be what you have at the end of the year minus what you started with. That is the 1,500 minus what? The 1,000, which will give you 500 cedis. So that 500 cedis is your profit. So this 1,500 you are seeing over here is your closing capital. And what you started with is your what? Your opening capital. So when you are given a question on single entry and you don't have sales, purchases, and all those things, all what you have is the assets and liabilities of the business. Then you are going to use the closing capital minus your what? Your opening capital to ascertain your profit. So the format here, we start with the closing capital. And one thing that you should know is when there is drawings within the year, if the proprietor or the sole trader withdrew some amount of goods or cash from the business, since he has withdrawn from the business and now we want to know the true net profit of the business, we need to add back. So when there is drawings, we add back. So we add drawings. So when we add drawings to the closing capital, the total amount we get, we now come and less the the opening capital. But then before we less the closing capital, if in the question there is an additional capital that was introduced within the year, we need to take it out to also know the true profits of the business at the end of the year. So if there is an additional capital introduced during the year, we also have to less it. So we also less additional capital. So we add these two, then we come and less from here. Then we less this amount from this, and we get our net profit. We can get net profit. That is all for the single entry. This is the format that you have to go by. So someone will also ask, so if this, how will you get, are you going to, are the question going to give you straight closing capital and straight opening capital? In some questions, you don't have that. So there's a need for you to prepare the statement of affairs. The statement of affairs. You have to prepare the statement of affairs as at that date. So you put the date there. So we all know the accounting equation. The accounting equation is assets is equal to capital plus what? Liabilities. So if I want to determine my capital and I know assets is equal to capital plus liability, then it means assets minus liabilities will give me what? My capital. So we use the statement of affairs to determine the capital of the business. That is the use of the statement of affairs. That is the use of the statement of affairs. So if I want to determine my capital, I will just come here and write all my assets, including my non-current assets. And so let's say we have motor vehicle. We can have buildings. We can have debtors. We can have inventory. So these are few of them. Depending on the question given to you, you write all the assets given to you in the question. So when you finish, you add all your assets. That is the both non-current assets and the current assets. You have the total. Now you come and less your what? You less your liabilities. That is both. So we can have creditors. We can have expenses owings. So even here, let me add prepaid expenses, which is also an asset. So we add all this depending on the question. So we add all the assets and liabilities in the question. Let me add loan to it. So when you add all this, then you come and less from your total assets. So when you less from this, the answer that you get is your what? Your capital. That is how we prepare the that is how we prepare the statement of affairs. So that is how we prepare the statement of affairs. But then for you to get your closing capital, that is in for you to get your closing capital, it depends on the date. And for you to get your opening capital, it depends on the date. So if you want to get your opening capital, then you are going to say statement of affairs assets. Let's assume it is January 1st, January 2024. So if you want to get your opening capital. Then you're going to prepare asset statement of affairs as at 1st January 2024, which means you're going to pick all the assets at that date. The question is going to tell you the assets that are on 1st January 2024. You pick those assets, you add them. Then you pick the liabilities as at 1st January 2024. Then you less from those assets to get your what? Your opening capital. Get your opening capital. When you are done, then you come and prepare a statement of affairs as at 31st December 2024. In the question, you are going to find the assets and liabilities as at 31st December 2024. You add all the assets as at that date, and you also add all the assets, also all the liabilities as at 31st December 2024. Then you find the difference, and that difference should be what? Will be your closing capital. So if that is your closing, so when you get your closing capital, then your opening capital, then you move to the format. Then you use that format to get your net profit. That is all. So now let's move to the incomplete records. Incomplete records. Incomplete records. So when we talk about the incomplete records, the incomplete records is where you have a question where the question is asking you to prepare the final account. The question is asking you to prepare a final account. So with the incomplete records, it is a situation where the information given to you in the question is inadequate for the preparation of the final account. That is when you have a question and the requirement of the question is asking you to prepare trading profits and loss accounts and also the statement of financial position. But then when you look at the question, the information given to you is not enough. It is not adequate for you to prepare those accounts. Normally, that is what comes into question. That is the incomplete record. So I'm going to take you through step by step on how to go about such questions when you have that question in your exam. So let's say you are in an exam room and you find out that you have a question on incomplete records, single entry and incomplete records, and the requirement is for you to prepare the trading profit and loss account and the statement of financial position, which is also known as the balance sheet. The first thing that you should look for is the capital. Do you have capital in the question? If there is no capital in the question, then the first thing that you need to do is to prepare the statement of affairs. Statement of affairs at the beginning. So that is the first thing that you need to do to determine the capital, the opening capital. So we do that to determine the opening capital. That is the first thing that you should do. We prepare the statement of affairs at the beginning to determine the opening capital. That is it. After doing that, the next thing that you need to prepare is the trade debtors control account. We prepare this to determine the credit sales in the question. So that is control account. Control account. You prepare this to determine the credit sales in the question. So after getting the credit sales in the question, then you move to the cash book, and there is sales on the debit side. That is cash sales. So you add your credit sales to your cash sales, which is in the question, to get your what? Your total sales. So this is your first step. Second step. The next step that you need to do is to prepare your trade creditors Trade creditors control. You need to prepare your trade creditors control account. So I have a video on control accounts. You can visit that and learn how to prepare the control accounts. So we do this to determine our credit purchases. Credit purchases. So if in the question there is cash purchases, you add your cash purchases in the question, which you normally find on the credit side of the cash book, plus the credit purchases you determine with the trade debtors control account to get your total purchases. That is the third step. The next step is to prepare your expenses accounts. You prepare your expenses accounts to know the amount that you need to transfer to the P&L account, that is the profit and loss account for that particular period. So I have explained how to prepare expenses accounts in my previous video. You can visit that particular video and learn how to prepare your expenses accounts. And if there is an income where you need to open an account for it, you prepare an income account. So with the income account too, I have a video on subscription account, which is an income account. That is the same way we prepare an income account. You can watch that particular video to learn how to prepare an income account. So these are some of the workings that you need to do. These are some of the workings that you need to do for single and incomplete records question. So when you are done with all these working, so sometimes you need to prepare. You can have the cash book there, but then you need to prepare the cash book again to get a closing balance. So sometimes you need to prepare the cash book again to get the closing balance for the cash book, because you need that in the statement of financial position as your current asset. That is the closing balance. So there is a need for you to prepare the cash book again. That is, if you don't have the closing balance in the question, you have to prepare the cash book again. So these are some of the workings that you need to do when you come across any single and incomplete records. These are the workings that you need to do. First, you prepare your statement of affairs to get your opening capital. You prepare your trade debtors to get your credit sales. You prepare your trade creditors to get your credit purchases. You prepare your expenses account. So all the expenses account that you need to prepare account for, you do that. If there is income, if there is not, you just move on. If you don't have to prepare the cash book, you just move on. So after doing all these workings, the next is you prepare your trading profits and loss accounts. And lastly, you prepare your statements of financial position. So that is all you need to know about single entry and incomplete records. These are the workings that you need to do on it. So in my next video, I'm going to pick a question on incomplete records and solve with you for you to understand how to go about incomplete records question. So if you have not subscribed to the channel, kindly do so and click on the notification bell. So anytime I upload a new video, you'll be the first to be notified. Share this video to your friends for your friends to also have a benefit of the channel. Bye bye. See you in my next video.